Peter was a young man of 25, tall and strong, but the weight of his family's expectations was too much for him to carry. They wanted him to be successful, to be a man who had money, respect, and influence. But Peter didn't want that. Not the way they wanted it. His friends, people from the village who had gone to the city to make something of themselves, had come back changed. They had cars, fancy clothes. They walked with an air of confidence that made it clear they had power. They had money. Peter, however, had always been a bit different. He had no interest in shortcuts. He wanted to work hard to build his life slowly. But his parents didn't see it that way. You see all those people who left this village, Peter. They're living well, aren't they? His father would say, looking at him with disappointment. They're not sitting here waiting to die poor. If you want a future, you need to start doing what they're doing. If you're not quick, Peter, you'll be left behind. His mother was even worse. Your friends are better than you. At least they know how to survive in this world. Go to the city and do whatever they are doing. Stop sitting here being a failure. You are killing us with your stubbornness. Peter would always try to explain, Mama, Papa, my friends aren't doing anything good. They are not making money the right way. But they didn't listen. They didn't want to hear it. They were tired of hearing about the right way, when what they saw were people with money and fancy lives. They would scream at him until he broke down, and it wasn't long before Peter packed his bag and left. He didn't want to, but there was no other choice. When Peter got to the city, he quickly realized that his parents were right. The city was nothing like the village. It was loud, busy, and full of people. People who seemed to have it all. Cars, houses, women, power. Peter walked the streets, feeling smaller and smaller. He tried to make sense of it all, but no matter what he did, he couldn't find his way. His friends, those old friends from the village, saw him as a joke. They laughed at him when he said he wasn't interested in their ways. You're still stuck on that hard work nonsense. One of them, Tony, laughed. Peter, wake up. That's not how the world works anymore. The fast way is the only way. Tony and the others were living lavishly. They had money flowing like water, and yet Peter couldn't understand how. The more he stayed with them, the more the pressure grew. Every day they told him to join them, to stop being foolish, to take the easy path. It wasn't long before Peter started questioning his own beliefs. Maybe his parents had been right. Maybe they had been right all along. One night, after a few months of struggling in the city, Peter was invited to a party. It was at Tony's place, and it was a celebration of some new business deal that had gone through. Everyone was drunk, dancing and laughing, and for the first time in a long while Peter felt like he fit in. Tony pulled him aside in the corner of the room. His face serious now, the laughter gone from his voice. Peter, I see you're struggling, man, Tony said, his words slurring slightly. I can help you. I can get you what you want. All you have to do is one thing. Peter listened attentively. There's a man. Big man. He can help you get money, power, everything you want. All you have to do is give him what he needs. Peter frowned. What do you mean? Tony leaned in close, his breath hot on Peter's ear. Sacrifice. Small one. Just one person. Your parents. Peter froze. His stomach churned, and for a moment he thought he might vomit. What do you mean, sacrifice? He asked, voice shaking. Tony smiled. Don't think of it as anything bad. Think of it like a business transaction. You give him what he wants, and he gives you everything you need. Power. Money. Success. Peter stood there, horrified, but Tony's words began to sink in. He thought of his father's disappointed face, his mother's angry words. Just maybe this was the way out. This was the answer to all his problems. Just think about it, Tony said as he walked away, blending back into the crowd. The following week Peter made the call. It wasn't hard. He had thought about it every night since Tony had first spoken the words. The deal was simple. His parents lives for his future. He'd seen too many people in the city who had taken shortcuts, who had made their deals. They were living the life he dreamed of. What did he really have to lose? When the Grandmaster arrived, Peter didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. He said nothing, just nodded. Peter led him to the small hut where his parents lived. He couldn't bring himself to look at them. The man did what he came to do. The city didn't look the same when Peter came back after that night. The lights were too bright. The streets felt empty. The faces of his old friends had changed too. No one looked at him with the same warmth. Tony was the first to notice. "You did it, didn't you?" he asked, a dark smile spreading across his face. Peter just nodded. He had the money now. He had the power. But what he didn't have was peace. Every night, he heard the sounds, the screams, the whispers, the laughter of his parents' spirits, trailing after him like shadows. The price had been paid, but the debt was never cleared. It wasn't long before Peter's life began to unravel. The money, the success, the power, it all came crashing down. It wasn't long before he started seeing things, hearing things, the voices of his parents calling to him. Every step he took felt like he was being dragged back into the darkness. The city that had once seemed full of opportunity now felt like a trap. And no matter how much money Peter made, no matter how many people feared him, he could never escape the curse he had brought upon himself.